police in the morning.
Hello, lonely mortals. Welcome to another edition of Breaking Better News. I'm your host, as always, the friendly neighborhood Simpsons kin, Max Darrett. And joining me for this episode is a woman that is more prim than Reaper. Before we get started, I just want to say that if you guys have any topics you'd like to see covered in a breaking news segment, make sure to message me your suggestions through Twitter. My Twitter handle is @MaxDarrett, all one word. I know some of you have wanted to see more segments focused on men's rights, so I want you to help me make that a reality. I'll even give you credit in the video if you bring a topic to my attention. Once again, that's @MaxDarrett. Let's try and bring worthwhile stories to the masses. Okay, so let's get into the news. Over in South London, at the Dulwich Leisure Centre, two feminists gained access to a men-only swimming session last Friday by identifying as men. However, this wasn't done because they identified as trans, as a lot of us were expecting, as what I was expecting when I first read the title of the article. Rather, they were doing it to highlight how easily somebody who isn't trans can lie for their own nefarious purposes. One woman named Amy Desir, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name, and another woman known only as Hannah gained access to the pool because they identified as male. Amy Desir wore only trunks and a pink swimming cap. Both women used the male changing rooms before joining around 20 men in the 25-meter pool. Miss Desir said she was doing it for the following reason, quote, "We are doing it to highlight the ridiculous and dangerous move towards self-identification. We are clearly not men, but by saying we are, we were allowed to join in men-only activities." Hannah said the following on the issue, quote, "I've never been an activist, and I'm incredibly nervous about doing this, but the issue prompted me to take action. It is about safety and dignity. People have a right to segregated areas." Prior to attempting this stunt, Hannah emailed the general manager of the leisure center asking what arrangements were made for women who self-identified as men. The response she got was as follows, quote, "Any customer is free to use the changing room they feel necessary for themselves. We do our best to avoid modern prejudices. However, opinions vary given the diversity of our customer base. If you wish to attend the Friday evening sessions, you would do so with the full support of the team, even though it might be at the expense of the little children." Most of the male swimmers tried to ignore the women. One elderly man asked Miss Desir if she realized it was a men-only session, and she replied in a very British fashion, "Oh, really?" And that last part was actually true. That wasn't me being sarcastic. Prim, so a lot of people on our side of the political aisle have been warning about this sort of thing for a long time. Do you think that this is actually going to do anything to make them change their minds about how crazy this all is?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I don't know. I think the whole thing is just silliness to begin with, for many different reasons. Saying that you're infiltrating a segregated area to demonstrate that people deserve to have segregated areas. It just kind of seems like that old line, fighting for peace is like screwing for virginity. I don't know. But
Hey. I actually like that saying. Mostly because it benefits people like me who use it. But anyways,
there you go. I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of silly. Like I can agree. Fine. You know, we can have segregated areas where men can do men things and women can do women things. I don't really necessarily care all that much. I'm more than happy to be around men and women because, you know, that's the way the world is. There's going to be men and women. The whole segregated thing, I've never really seen too much point, but I can see why some people would. And on the other hand, I'm also fully supportive of transgender individuals wanting to legitimately transition and identify as the opposite gender, but this support is restricted to people who are obviously attempting to make that transition, like going on hormones, getting surgery, trying their best to appear as their preferred gender. Someone making zero effort to even attempt to look as though they're transitioning and simply trying to claim as though their whatever gender is just weird. Like, your gender identity isn't, or at least shouldn't be, like a hat that you can take on and off any given day. If you're not making an effort to transition from male to female or vice versa, then you shouldn't be able to get into gender segregated areas that are specifically designed for one gender. If you really must do the gender neutral thing and identify as one thing one day and another thing the next, then I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to accept that most people aren't going to see you that way and stick to the gender neutral events. Not everything has to be for you.
Yeah, I understand, like, the issue of trans people. They have a hard enough time integrating into regular society, and they deserve the same respect that everybody else does, as long as they're not being ideological assholes, you know. But in this circumstance, I appreciate what the women are trying to do, even though, like, it's sad that they have to go this far just to get their point across. But if it really is this easy to do something like this, to get into a gender-segregated event just by saying that you identify as a certain way, that's actually kind of upsetting, simply because, well, if it's that easy and certain British institutions are unwilling to approach this on the basis of common sense, simply out of fear of being accused as something that they're not, when I'm afraid that might extrapolate to other instances. Oh, wait, it already has.
Well, I mean, I
Does Telford ring a bell? How about Rochdale? How about Rotherham?
honestly, I think the whole, I identify as whatever, I'm just gonna go on in there. It's like, really must you do that? What are you getting out of doing that? I don't understand. But like to this person who's infiltrating an event to demonstrate that people deserve to have their own events, like, you might want to take a different tactical strategy here, because people are just going to use this as an excuse to belittle men's only events. Because funny enough, I feel like if an obvious man infiltrated a woman only event with nothing but saying he was a woman, there would not be the same playful attitude being applied here.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this particular news item. It just seems like an occurrence every single day now in some particular Western country where somebody does something like this just out of fear of being called some sort of a bigot, when clearly common sense shows that they aren't. If you're in a situation like this, ladies and gentlemen, if you happen to be like a public sector worker or not even public sector, working in any instance where speaking out might merit you being called as some sort of sexist or transphobe or homophobe, do it anyways. Make sure you record the instance in question if you have the opportunity, and then take it to the news. Every single time that's happened, it's done wonders for our side of the political aisle. And there's tons of things that are happening nowadays in Britain, what with, like I just mentioned, in respect to Rotherham and the free speech debates surrounding Tommy Robinson. Those are just a couple of examples off the top of my head. Record. That is the number one rule of Honey Badger Radio ever since, 2015?
At least, yeah.
Always record.
Yeah.
Anyways, did you have anything else to say, Prim?
No, not really. I just think overall the whole situation is just goofy, because it's goofy for like the transgender side. It's goofy for the non-transgender side. It's just silliness all around. Let's do what Max said and speak out against this kind of thing wherever possible, because it's not bigoted. It's just challenging silliness at this point. God damn it.
I'm going to edit out that part of your sentence where you said, just do what Max said. I like how that sounds. I'm going to make that my ringtone. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, like Prim said, this is a very goofy story. But like I said at the very beginning, you can send me stories through Twitter. I'll say again, @MaxDarrett, if you think there's a more important story that needs to be talked about. I know that, like I said, there's people that want to see more men's rights stories. Just send them to me. I'll make sure I credit you in the videos that we do in the future. But anyways, I'll do it for this specific video. I want to thank Prim for joining me on such short notice, as always. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, because if it helps us out a lot, but with the YouTube algorithm, it just sends our videos around to a whole bunch more people. Our videos show up in the recommended feeds, and it gets the messages that we represent here at Honey Badger Radio out to a whole lot more people. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Honey Badger Radio does tons of videos every single week, pretty much every single day, like depending on how intense the news cycle is. Anyways, that'll do it for now. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay yellow.